Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today, we would continue our journey on the channel. We've discussed thought quite extensively from some time, and maybe today I would like to pick up something which I do not prefer to pick up directly because it cannot be talked about directly, but indirectly we can try to touch it. And what that aspect is the significance of freedom in life. Okay? I want to make it very clear that I do not mean the physical freedom here, first of all. The intention is about psychological freedom. Freedom physically is also important. Physical freedom to leave your house, physical freedom to ride a bicycle, physical freedom to go to your favorite restaurant, move your body wherever you want. But there is already restrictions according to the laws of each country, the way you can physically move as well. There are borders which you cannot cross in some areas. Maybe in Europe there is free travel, but not everywhere. So that's one kind of a freedom. That's important as well. But our channel is more related to psychology, so I would like to share why psychological freedom is more important. Okay? Now, I would try to convey the feeling of that psychological freedom, okay? Because that is what I think is the most important thing. It's not possible to exactly convey it in words, but we could try to get as close as possible. We have discussed before that thought is not free. Okay? What it means is that thought always has a beginning, thought always has an end. Okay? So it is temporally bound, first of all. It is bound in time. It has a beginning, it has an end. That is one foundation of thought. Second foundation of thought is the information that it carries. Okay? Thought does not bring anything absolutely new. Thought cannot bring anything absolutely new. Thought is totally based on what we already know. Okay? Which is why you would see most of the time when you're thinking, you're only thinking about the things that you know, the things that are important in your life, which you know. So, thought is a movement of your memory inside your brain. Okay? And in doing so, the brain is trying to solve its problems. The brain is trying to feel safer. The brain is trying to make the future more comfortable by pre-planning about it. Okay? So, this is the second aspect of thought in terms of that it's not free, is that first it was temporally bound, it's inside of time. Second, it's inside of the field of knowledge. Okay? There can be no thought of something absolutely new. Thought is always about something that is already known. That is the nature of thought. So that's the second aspect of thought, which also shows that thought is not free. So if we can see these two aspects, okay, I would I can give first the cliche answer, which is given by all the great teachers, first of all, then all the teachers who have copied the great teachers, and I think it has become quite common nowadays, but let's start with it. That the understanding of the limitation of thought, that it's limited temporally and also from the field of knowledge, itself opens the door of freedom. Okay? So when you know that thought cannot take you to the land of freedom. Okay? And this answer has been given by good teachers, very good teachers. For example, J. Krishnamurti has stressed a lot on this. The realization of the limitation of thought is very important. Because when you're trying to investigate something, when you're trying to know in your life that is there something like psychological freedom, then you are experimenting, and then the experiment demands certain conditions which needs to be fulfilled. For example, someone can think that I can think anything, and that is my psychological freedom. I can think of my favorite actor, my favorite musician, the book, the music, the art, the war, the paintings, and everything. But again, when you will look at it rationally, you would see that all of this falls in the field of knowledge. So, yes, inside the field of knowledge, you can bring a lot of colors of using thought. You might feel that it is freedom, psychological freedom, that I'm free to think whatever I want. I'm free to imagine whatever I want. This is my psychological freedom. But on close examination, as I said, you can see that all those imaginations, all those aspects of thought are coming from what you already know. They are coming from knowledge. So, doesn't matter how different colors it has, doesn't matter how many different frails it offers, doesn't matter what kind of a huge variety it offers. And thought can offer a really huge variety. So, it's still at some point limited, not free. Limited means which has limits, and the thing which has limits is not free. So this gives us maybe a small insight that when we say psychological freedom, then we mean a kind of living in which our psychology has no limits. Because as long as we are in limits, there is already the movement of thought. All limit is coming from thought. Now, the idea of not having any limits is already scary maybe for some people, and it feels like magical or mysterious or something. But it's nothing like this. It's a very simple argument that things with limits are limited, and things which don't have limit are free. You can call them unlimited, but you can also call them free. So here, freedom gets another meaning, that something which is not limited. Okay? You can define freedom in a way that, I'm limited, but inside of that limit, I'm free to do anything. That is one way of looking at freedom. Okay? But at the core level, the great teachers have asked that, is it actually really freedom? Is it actually freedom? That you stay in a limit, and inside that limit you are free. So the question comes, can the psychology be free from any kind of limits? Okay? Now naturally, to answer that question, you must put limits aside. You understand? Like, if you want to investigate that, can your psychology be free? And freedom, as we defined, not to have any limits, okay? Not to be inside of the limits of time or inside of the limits of knowledge, any of those limits. So naturally, if I want to investigate that question, that can my psychology be free? Okay? Then I cannot investigate that question using the tools, using the elements which are limited themselves. Okay? For example, if I start to wonder how can my psychology be free, then my wondering is already a limited tool. I cannot wonder everything in this universe, okay? Because I do not know everything in this universe. I can only wonder according to what I know. So, my wondering has a limit. But my whole question is, can my psychology be free? Can my psychology be without limits? So, naturally, I cannot use anything which is limited itself to investigate that question, to go into it. I wonder if you felt it, or if you see the logic of it. So then the big question comes: can I put all the limited aspects aside? Because I see that I cannot use them to answer this question. Either I'm not interested in this question, okay? Either I'm like, okay, this question is kind of boring for me because I'm quite satisfied with my life. I'm quite satisfied with the limits I have, and I'm quite satisfied with the colors that my limits bring, the freedom inside of my limits. Then that's already gone. Then there is no conversation here. But if you say that, no, I really want to investigate the nature of freedom. What does it mean to be psychologically free? Then naturally, the first thing we need to do is to put aside everything which is not free, because using that I can never find that which is free. I think it's quite obvious, simple logic. So, can we put everything limited aside? And when I say that, I mean, can we put the process of thinking aside? Because the process of thinking is limited. Process of thinking is not free, as we discussed before. So, when I put the process of thinking aside, when I put it aside, not because I want to have a gain, not because I want to win a prize out of it, not because I will get some superpowers, not because I will become some enlightened master, but because I really want to investigate deeply that what it really means to have a free psychology. Or is it even possible to have a free psychology? Both ways. We are not saying that it is possible but you cannot do it. We are approaching it as a question, as an inquiry. And in an inquiry, you cannot pre-assume whether the answer is yes or no. We start with the inquiry with the state of I don't know. I'm investigating. And as I start to investigate, I see that I cannot use the tools which are limited, because I'm investigating something which is not limited. So, can I put my limited tools aside? If you really want to investigate, then you see that yes, it's possible to put the limited tools aside. Because you can see that to cross that barrier, to move on that path, to move with that investigation, that is a requirement. And because that is a requirement, it's not a challenge to put thought aside. It is just like, okay, I have to do this. To do this, I need to put this here. And you effortlessly put thought aside because you need to investigate. Okay? Now, this is where the whole game begins, that what happens when you put thought aside? Okay? What happens when you put the process of thinking aside to see if there is something which is not limited. The moment I do that, I discover that I'm not only thought. That's my first discovery, because in my life I have never put thought aside. I have always lived with thought. And all of a sudden, this beautiful question comes to me, and I want to investigate it deeply. And when I want to investigate it deeply, I put thought aside. The moment I put thought aside, I see that I was thinking I could not live without thinking. And that's why I was always thinking. I would repeat the statement that I was thinking that I cannot live without the process of thinking. And which is why I have been during my whole life always thinking. But now this question, this reason, because of the reason of this investigation, I put thought aside and I see that actually I still exist, even without thought. Psychologically, we are saying, okay? That psychologically, I exist not as I used to be, as an entity, as a controller, as the entity which is trying always to have profit and avoid pain. But there is a new way of existing which is not the way of existing of thought. Okay? This way of existing is just existing, Now trouble is coming because I have to eventually put words to this existing, how it is existing, and this is all danger zone, because the moment you put words to this existing, it's not the same. But if you are with me right now, then you can see you can still exist without thought. And in this existence, my psychology is highly restful. It's like as if you've put me on a relaxing couch, and you've told me I don't need to do anything. So the process of thought has been put aside, not because of some magical reasons, but simply because we want to investigate. And as the process of thought has been put aside, we enter, or we feel that we still exist without thought. And this existence without thought has a peculiar kind of relaxation. It's like I don't know. It's like you are on somewhere which fits so perfectly, and you feel like it is so easy to exist like this, because you don't have to do anything to do that, to be that, to exist like that. And the question remains, what is the free psychology? Now, I do not know the answer. So, in my investigation, I cannot find the answer because I do not know it. I can only find something that I already know. If you tell me find an apple, I can find it because I know what's an apple. But if you tell me to find something that I don't know, I cannot find it. So, because I don't know what is a free psychology, what is freedom of psychology, I discover it's stupid to look for it. I cannot look for it. I don't know what is it. The only thing I know is my limits. I know what are the limited parts of me. So, I'm staying with my psychology without the limited parts, and then I discover, but I am in such a strong habit to live with those limited parts, they are trying to forcefully come back in my psychology. Okay? Because the movement of the brain is so strong and for so many years that the brain refuses to put that movement aside all of a sudden. Okay? So you see you exist without the limited thought, without thought as a limit, but as you want to continue to stay in that relaxing state of not doing anything, thought tries to come back. Thought tries to push into the state, because thought is always been like that. It has always been in the mind. It has always been the central point of the mind. So my only concern is to be aware that thought is trying to come back. Okay? And I'm not fighting with the comeback of the thought. Right? Because defeating thought is not my objective. I'm not putting thought aside because I want to defeat it. No. I simply put it aside because it's not useful in my investigation. My investigation is to see freedom, and thought is not free. So I keep an eye that thought is trying to come in. But my awareness that thought is trying to come in, along with my knowledge that it's useless for thought to come in, again puts thought aside. It keeps thought outside, without a fight, without an effort, but just an awareness that yes, it's a useless thing that's trying to come into my experiment, that's trying to pollute my experiment right now. So I'm aware of it. I'm very cautious of it, because I know it's a very old movement inside of me. It wouldn't go quite so easily, but I'm aware of it. So when you come this far, right, then you say, okay, I've had my long day of work and I'm ready to give an hour to the investigation of this. Then you find out that thought is not coming in your investigation, because you see the logic that it's stupid to bring it in right now, right? And then you stay with that question. And you become tremendously aware that thought doesn't pollute your investigation. We are not thought's enemy. We are not fighting it. We are simply keeping an eye on it, because we know it is useless. One key cannot open all the locks. When the lock in front of us requires the key of thought, we will use the key. But when the lock requires something else, and that something else we don't know, what is it? But the only thing we know is that the key of thought cannot do anything there. So try this, okay? Stay with this. You give an hour in an evening, in the morning, whenever you can. If you can, live like this the whole day. Live with that investigation. Burn with that investigation. Then there will be glimpses of freedom. Then there will be glimpses of this psychological freedom. I don't want to give features of it. It's just not right, because whatever I will say then become a problem for you. You can imagine it. So try this, okay? And be very careful. We are not fighting thought. We are just paying our attention on the investigation. Okay? If you have some questions, then please write to me, and let's meet again when it's possible. Thank you very much.